Ah, heyo at Hematu. Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. I have a habit of slipping back into the Planko language. It's good to finally meet you in person. I'm Bernard, although I insist you call me Bernie. The only person who calls me Bernard is my wife. And even then, only when I've tracked elephant dung into the carpets. As you know, I own several zoos, but I always like to show people the ropes here at my home. This is the first zoo I ever opened, and a source of great pride for me. And prides, thanks to a lion breeding program we ran in the 80s. But we're in the middle of a big renovation, and that's where you come in. Sadly, our old contractor had to retire after developing a fur allergy. Poor devil kept sneezing his dentures into the lion habitat. So, it's up to you to finish everything off. Don't worry, though. I'm not completely throwing you in at the deep end. My head keeper, Nancy Jones, will be lending a helping hand. Oh, she's a hard worker, and she'll expect you to be too. But I'm sure you'll get along like a house on fire, or even better, one that isn't on fire. Less shouting that way.
Hello there. From that rosy, fresh face of yours, I'm guessing you're Bernie's new hire.
Okay, so it's sorted
Good.
now.
Now, I hope you're ready to ditch your diploma
Just
because
to
we're
make
about
sure
to
that's
get
not too
really
loud.
hands-on. But before we begin the real work, how about we familiarise you with the zoo by learning how to fly around it and visiting some of our beautiful animals? We'll start by popping
Test.
over and having a look-see at the
Test.
grizzly bears in their habitat.
Right, so let's get into this game. Right, locate the grizzly bear.
Did you know
Yep.
that grizzly bears,
And,
also
animal
known
camera.
as Ursus arctos
Here's just out of
horribilis,
poo.
can hibernate for up to 7 months a year? Oh, but then again,
Four.
given the chance, I think a lot
Okay.
of people would do that
West.
too.
African lion habitat.
Select one of the bears and you'll bring up its information panel.
Yep,
See now,
cool.
this is a fantastic way to get a close look at your
Okay,
animals.
the
You can
empty
also get
habitat.
this view of an animal
Cool.
by simply double-clicking on it.
Where is it?
Okay, when you're ready, let's pop over to the other side of the zoo and take a look at the lions. I've marked their location for you to find.
Thanks.
Panthera leo leo, or the West African lion to you and
there it
me.
is.
Lions are the
Cool.
most social of the big cats, and there can be as many as 40 lions in a pride, although prides of that size are pretty rare.
So I guess
As
one
Bernie would
thing that
say,
could be
"Those
done
lions are
is
awesome." Which
skipping
is
the
precisely why
dialogue.
I handle the training
That
instead
would be
these days.
helpful.
Anyway, how
Also
about
the
we get started
interface,
on
it'd be
those
nice if I could
objectives?
click
Come on,
the
let's head
objectives
over to
window
our
and drag
warthog
it down to the
habitat and
right
see
so
what
it's
we're
not in the
doing
way.
there.
And then I could keep track of it
As you can see, it's a
And,
lovely space for warthogs,
know,
but it's missing a certain
whilst I'm doing
something.
other things.
Well, two somethings. The warthogs. So I'd like you to adopt a
Right.
pair of them. To adopt
Adopt.
animals, we need to open the animal market, which is in the animal trading section.
Cool.
There we are, a pair of perfectly splendid warthogs for our zoo. Just click on them and select Buy from the side menu.
See
Normally the
now,
animal exchange would be full of animals, but I've emptied
the
out the market
dialogue
while
says
you learn
click
how it
adopt.
works. The last
And
thing I need
the
is you
option
accidentally
here
ordering a
says
dozen
adopt.
elephants.
But she didn't say adopt, she said click buy, which is very confusing. Because the other day when I was playing, I thought when I clicked on adopt that I had selected the wrong option.
When you adopt an animal, it's automatically placed in the trade centre where they're
So
held
let's
until
speed
you're
that
ready
up.
to move them into their habitat, which, as it happens, you are. So how about you move them into their new home? When you ask for an
Warthog.
animal to be
Yep.
moved into a habitat, your caretakers will go to the trade centre, collect your animal and deliver them to your selected habitat.
Yep,
I've
cool.
marked the trade
Right,
centre's location.
objectives.
So let's go
So I've
and watch
got
the
to
caretakers in
reopen
action.
objectives. be so nice if I could click and drag it down here, then I wouldn't have to close it and open it back up again to see the next thing I've got to do. So, locate Trade Center 120. Cool.
Well, as you can see, those caretakers don't hang about. They'll move those animals to their destination as fast as possible. Of course, normally we'd have to place the animals into quarantine before moving them into a habitat, but I am assured by a person of good standing that these warthogs are in the very rudest of health. Right, let's get the warthog's habitat finished up so we can keep them nice and happy. You see, each
I
animal
feel
in
like
the zoo has an
the
overall
tutorial could be
welfare
quicker
statistic,
by having
basically
you
how happy
focus
they are.
on one
And that
animal
overall welfare
rather than
statistic
going
is
to the
itself comprised
bears
of
and then
4
the
different
lions, then the
areas:
warthogs,
nutrition,
then the
social health,
ostriches.
habitat, and enrichment. Luckily,
just
if
be
you select
easier,
an animal,
quicker,
you'll bring up their
and
animal
then you
welfare information
teach me
panel,
the
which we
next
saw
thing
earlier,
that you've got
where
to
you can
teach me.
see how they're doing. That way, you'll know exactly what areas need to be addressed. Don't worry if that's a lot to remember. You can always
come
check
on.
the Zoopedia for more information. Let's start by making sure we're taking care of the warthog's nutrition welfare. To do this, we'll need to place a food station and a drinking station.
Habitat.
Now, each animal requires a different type of feeding station. And for the warthogs, it's a small feeding trough. So let's add one of those and a water bowl. Animals also require stimulation to keep them happy.
Yep.
Let's add a lovely mud bath for the warthogs to roll around in. That bath will count towards their enrichment welfare, specifically their toy enrichment welfare.
Yeah.
Oh, nice work. You've got a knack for this, I see.
It
Now,
does drag on a
our
bit.
contractor had to leave in a hurry, so this place is in a feral state. Unfinished thingamajigs and whatsits all over the shop. But the first thing we need to finish is the ostrich habitat.
Okay.
It's over near the hippos.
Great. So now we've moved from bears to lions to warthogs to now ostriches.
Okay, job number 1 here is to add a habitat gate before we complete the barrier. Every habitat needs a habitat gate. After all, how else would the keepers get in and out? Just make sure it's hooked up to the path so the keepers can reach it.
Right. One thing I noticed earlier when playing this is if I am this side of the wall and I place a thing, a door, then it's automatically this side. So when I was in franchise mode and selected it, I had to remove the door and place another one. So it'd be nice if you had the option
Right.
when
Let's
you
complete
click
the
on
perimeter
it
barrier so we can adopt us some ostriches.
to
I've marked out an
like
area
a
for you
nice
to
little
use, so I'd
option
like
that
you to
would
finish off the
turn it
perimeter
from
using
this
the brick
side
barrier.
to that side. It would help. Right, so complete the habitat boundary. Cool. Yep.
Good work. Remember, before you can place animals in any habitat, it has to have a full loop of connected barrier.
Yep.
Now, you've probably noticed that guests can't actually see into this habitat at the moment. At least not without a stepladder.
Cool.
But seeing as they're banned, I'd like you to select a piece of barrier and swap out the brick for a glass barrier, so the guests can see in.
Right, so you select that. See, this is where things get a bit like it's not really teaching me. So, for all I know, I click on a wall and it's changed. But, you know, it'd be nice if she told me that I can click on this icon to drag it around there. And then I have no idea what I have to press. So obviously I know now I need to click on the glass wall again. But it'd be nice if there was a button somewhere else, or if it automatically did it, because I've already selected glass wall and don't know why I have to now click on
There
it
we
again.
go. Adding in more windows gives
Seems a
guests
bit
even
odd.
more opportunities to see the animals in a habitat. It's always best to make sure the guests can get a good
And
view
again,
into a habitat from the path they're walking
This
on.
would be nice if I
because
could
it
drag
makes
it
them
over to the
happy.
right side,
And because this would be a pretty
because I don't want this it
terrible zoo
all
if
over
it
on the
couldn't.
left side.
The last thing we need
Also,
to do is to add a donation box.
I
You see, when
can't
guests
I
enjoy the
can
view
drag
of an
that up and
animal, they'll
down.
make a
I've been
donation.
trying that for the
Just
past
make
few
sure you
days,
put them in
and it
easy-to-reach
hasn't been
places, like
working.
near a viewing point.
But there's no like
Donation
little
boxes are
toggle
one of the
icon
main
to let me know
sources
that
of
I can
income
do
for the
that.
zoo, so make sure
So
you
that's
remember
surprising.
them.
Donation box. Yep. Well, why can't I place it there? Oh, I can. Okay, it's too close to the
All right, you've finished the habitat, so it's high time we adopted those ostriches, don't you think?
Yep.
Let's get 4 of them in here.
4. So here's another thing that I noticed the other day. So I purchased 2 ostriches, but I didn't. Purchased 2, but didn't send the other 2 to the zoo. And once you've done that, and you go to here, there's nothing left. So the only other thing you do is click trade history. They've kind of done something. That's good. Okay. So the problem I had the other day, and this was before I got this notification saying Open Trade Center history, I had no idea where my other 2 ostriches were. But I'm glad this little notification has popped up because it didn't the other day. Still, it'd be nice if Nancy told me that I could click in animal storage, because she's the one that's teaching me and walking me through it.
While we wait for them to be collected by the caretakers and brought to the habitat, you should get it ready for them. Add a suitable feeding station, water station, and an appropriate food enrichment item. It's often best to place things like enrichments and feeding stations near to the habitat perimeter, so guests can get a really good view of the animals.
Cool.
Oh, good to see the ostriches have somewhere they can really stretch their legs. Did you know they can actually run at 43 miles per hour? Oh, heaven forbid they ever escape. The speed camera fines alone would bankrupt us.
Well, Bernie certainly seems impressed. Did he do his speed camera joke? Every time we get an ostrich. So, now we've made the ostriches' lives a bit better, let's do the same for the keepers, shall we? To make it easier for the keepers to feed the ostriches and hippos, we should build a new keeper hut. Keeper huts are where the keepers prepare the food for animals, so they should be placed near to the habitats to make sure the keepers don't waste their time walking when they should be looking after the animals.
Okay, another thing I want to quickly point out. When I was playing the other day, I didn't have objectives open because it's in my way. Again, it'd be super nice if I could drag it down to the right here and then drag it back up when I've got the space that I need. And if I need to hear Nancy speak again, I don't know what I could do. I mean, I'm aware now that I can click on objectives and click replay dialogue, but I don't know that unless I've got that open. So it would have been cool if Nancy told me that I could select objectives to replay dialogue, so I know it's there. Right, let's build a keeper hut. Right, see, I can't read that because objectives is in the way. Again, the interface would be lovely if I could move it. And why is that ostrich so huge? Game looks beautiful. I cannot deny that. Got to close that, because it's in the way. Another thing quickly, the orange grid. Orange or red usually means I can't place something somewhere. So it'd be nice if Frontier changed the colour.
This keeper hut only has space for 1 keeper, But the larger keeper hut can allow multiple keepers to prepare food at the same time. Oh, but bear in mind that keeper huts and other staff facilities shouldn't be placed near to areas where there are lots of guests.
Cool.
Guests don't like seeing facility buildings, and it can affect their happiness. Negatively. In case that wasn't clear.
Yep.
Something that all facilities, shops, and a whole host of other objects need is power. And that
Yep.
obviously
Again,
includes your
orange
newly
looks
built
awful.
keeper hut. So let's place a
It's
transformer
very-
next to it, shall
you,
we?
You shouldn't have red or orange as
Now,
something.
the reason everything has gone blue is because you're using the power heat map. This map allows you to see what is and what isn't powered in your zoo. So, once you've placed your transformer, you can click in the bottom left to turn the heat map off. Lovely work. Now the keepers can start using the hut to prepare food, and thanks to where you've put it, they won't need to walk very far to deliver it to the ostriches and hippos.
Cool.
Let's get on to your next objective then. Bengal tigers.
Okay, here
want to
is
adopt
where
sons, I'm afraid
I
there's nothing
started
ready for them
becoming
yet.
very,
Head
very
on over to the plot of
frustrated
land I've
with the
marked
game
out. It's not too
when
far
I was
away.
playing yesterday.
Righty, your next job is to build a habitat.
Right,
From
cool.
scratch. And wood and concrete, I
So
expect.
I want to do.
So go ahead and build it.
corners.
And don't forget the habitat gates. It's
So,
always best to place
I had
the
a lot of trouble
habitat
with
gate
this
close to the
yesterday
keeper hut.
because,
As it
well,
happens, there's
you'll
one
see.
quite near to the trade centre.
Now,
Oh, and make sure the guests will
I
be
don't
able
know
to
how
see
to
the
make that
tigers.
longer because again, I've not been taught how to use these tools or whatever. And in order to stretch that out, I have to click. No, I don't click on it. I'm not actually sure how to do that because I want to do the wall right up to the corner, but I've not been taught how to do walls. I've been taught how to complete walls and had to guess how to place the glass, but no, I've not been taught, and you're here to teach me. So what have I actually got to do? Let's see. Edit barrier. No, does this do it? Okay, that does that. Sweet. Now I want to do a wall straight down there. No idea how to do that, and I can't move this to the left. How do I do that? Because I don't know. I still don't know. You know, I don't know because you haven't taught me. I wonder if Z does anything. Okay. Z changes the direction the pillar's going in, but still stuck over there and can't move it to the right. Which is kind of terrible. Like, I'm not gonna know these things unless you teach me these things. People ain't gonna just guess because they have Planet Coaster, because people might not be interested in theme parks and already know about that game. So, luckily, I asked a friend earlier and they told me there's an option here to go down here, which is good, but it's so frustrating. Why can I have to hold it again? I haven't been taught I can hold that. I mean, I think there's a lot of things Frontier need to do before this game is released, and a lot of it is based around a tutorial. Because it's pretty bloody frustrating. Is that connected? Yep, that is connected. So, what now? Add habitat. Gate. Oh, okay, gate. Right, see, if I was to place this gate, it's fine. I already explained earlier about it going in different directions.
Now, Bernie takes safety very seriously at his zoos, so we should probably make sure those tigers can't jump out of their habitat, don't you think? The way we'll do it is by changing the height of the habitat's barrier. Okay then, You should start by double-clicking the habitat barrier, which will take you into barrier editing mode.
Do you know what would be
Great.
super
now
useful?
highlight the entire perimeter of the
When I've
habitat.
placed
You can do
items,
that by
I
clicking
can
and
right click
dragging
to
the
get rid
barrier
of
selection tool.
whatever I don't want to use
Now
anymore.
you've got all of the perimeter selected, you can
But
increase the height of it
if I
by
right
clicking
click
and
now,
dragging the barrier
that's
height
not
tool
making the
upwards.
barrier
You'll want to make sure it reaches
the
a
gate
minimum
go
height
away,
of 4
which is
meters.
super annoying. So I have to press escape. Yep, sure. And with this yesterday, didn't know I had to do the thing. It should be more clear that you have to select the entire thing and how to do that, not just say to do it. And then 4 meters, she says. 4.
Okay, that's the habitat boundary complete,
Cool.
the habitat gate in place, and most
By the way, I
importantly,
just wanna
the
point out
tigers won't be
also-
able to jump out of it anymore. I think it's time we adopted those tigers.
The wall might not be 4.6 all the way around, and I had an issue with that yesterday. I was focusing on one bit and thought it was over 4 meters, then came over here and noticed there was a bit in a dip that was lower. Anyway, Bengal tigers. Adopt. Send to zoo. I really wish there was a sound once you've selected the habitat you want to put it in, because there's a sound there, and when I click,
Whilst our trusty caretakers
sound.
collect and deliver the tigers, let's take a look at preparing the habitat for their arrival.
yep.
We'll start
Why
with the
am I closing?
basics. Add a suitable feeding station for them.
Suitable feeding station. Habitat. Cool.
This time, instead of adding a water bowl, let's try something different. Some animals need a pool in their habitat so they can go for a swim, but they can also use it to drink from.
Water.
All you have to do is make sure the banks of the pool have a gentle slope so they can easily get a nice, refreshing drink.
Cool.
There's already a pool excavated, but you still need to fill it with water.
Yep.
You should do that by going into terrain and selecting the water tool.
Yes, Nancy, I've already done that.
Yes, that'll
Add
do
food
nicely.
enrichment.
Of course, just like the warthogs and ostriches, these tigers will also need some enrichment. Why don't you add some suitable toy and food enrichment items into their habitat? Okay, it's really starting to take shape. Now, the tigers will need a shelter in their
Hello.
habitat so they can hide from
Gabriel
the guests, or
Pussy.
more likely, the bad weather. Although, given that we're in England, you might want to think of that just as normal weather. Go on, add a shelter to their habitat.
Shelter.
You can either build one
Cool.
from various suitable bits and bobs, or if you
Yeah,
like,
and it's
just pop
orange.
down the blueprint that I've already built for
Which-
you.
It's a bit odd.
Oh, poor Dabs. I'm sure it can't have escaped your attention that the tigers look a bit miffed.
Yep,
That's
yep.
because they aren't too keen on the type of terrain in their habitat. Select a tiger and bring up its information panel. Rightio, click on the terrain tab. That way you can view the terrain information and see how they feel about the different types of terrain. That'll tell you what the
Okay.
tigers need more of or less of in this habitat.
So this is another thing I don't
Okay
understand.
then, open the terrain editing tool, select
I can't make
painting,
that any
and give them some
lower,
more
which is a
soil.
bit annoying.
Yes, that
So
should
I can
help with
click
the
here
habitat
to
part of their
select
welfare.
terrain for the animal. But if I go to the items section, like plants and stuff, I can't click on the plant and then place it. So it seems like there's a menu for terrain and a menu for plant. The terrain one seems to work, but the plants doesn't. And I know it's intentional, like they want you to go into the nature for plants and stuff, but it's a bit weird that I can pick terrains from here. It's weird. Anyway, too much grass, not enough soil. And they've not taught me
Right then,
how to
all
make it
animals
bigger
need
or any
plants and
shortcut
trees from their own
keys.
biome or continent.
Just
You know,
weird.
deserts, savannas, or Asia, Europe, that sort of thing. It looks like these tigers need a few more plants in their habitat.
So plants.
To get a perfect fit, use
Can't
plants from the
select plant from
rainforest
here,
and
but I just
temperate
select the terrain
biomes that
from
are
here.
native to Asia.
It's weird.
Although if you have to, you can get away with using just one or the other. The tigers will also want a certain amount of their habitat to be covered by those plants. To find out which
I mean,
plants
I know
to use
she
and
says
how many,
pick some
select
from
the
Asia,
tiger and go
but
to
it
the
doesn't really tell me
environment tab.
that I can
Now,
go to
as you can
continent
see,
and then
some of
select
the plants
Asia.
currently in the habitat aren't quite right for the tiger, like the wattle bushes. You can remove them if you want.
Sweet. Yesterday when I was
You
playing,
can find all of
I
the
couldn't
plants you
remove
need
these,
in the
it
nature
wouldn't let me.
section, and you can use the filters to only show the types of plants you want to see.
Okay,
In this
so
case,
she
that's
does
plants
it.
from the rainforest or temperate biomes.
Cool. Let's put a tree here. And so now I don't know what's going. Where's the animal? Or one of them at least. There we go. Habitat. Needs more plants. Cool. Did I close this? I don't think I did. I can't remember. But there's been a few occasions where the game has been like, oh, do this, but then it's closed the thing that I'm looking at or need. Is there a line to serve? Here there is. Sweet. So it'd be nice if this stayed up rather than going to this tab. Cool. Objectives. Increase plant wealth to 90%. Let's put a few of these in.
They say the good fences make good neighbors. I guess that's doubly true when one of the neighbors is a Bengal tiger. Still, those tigers look so happy that I doubt they'd leave, even if you did poke a hole in their fence. Oh, but for heaven's sake, don't test that theory.
Oh, that's interesting. I've not been
Let's
told
head over to the
to
Indian
add
peafowl.
glass
I've been
to the
told that we
tiger
need to improve
enclosure,
their social welfare.
and I've somehow got silver. That's odd. Okay, well, I'll do that now, seeing as Nancy's not told me to do it. And I can't do it, so I can't add glass, because there's no option to do glass. Cool, let's just print screen that. And post it in this chat. Oh, tiger. Sorry about that. Anyway, well, I guess I'm not giving glass to that. So the peafowl.
Now then, just find one of the peafowls and select them to open an information panel. Then we can have a good gander at how they're doing. Although technically, I
don't know if
suppose
that's a
gandering
bug
would just be for
or
geese.
what.
Expand their social welfare, and we can get a bit more detail.
Expand their social welfare.
Now, they've clearly got plenty of space, and they're not stressed, but it looks like their social group isn't quite right.
Now,
So let's find out
last
more.
night when I did
Click on the
this,
social tab at the top of their information
I
panel to
just
see
got
what's wrong.
the that's annoying. I just got this green
Right,
bar
as you
with the
can see,
name
the
and then the
peafowls
question
need
mark,
their population to
pointer,
be
and
larger.
the X.
To solve
I
this
didn't
little
have this
problem, you'll
menu,
need
so
to
I gave
adopt
up.
3 more female peafowls.
Female
Well,
peafowls.
off you pop to the animal market.
Adopt, send, click. Adopt, send, click. I'm trying to make a point.
Good work on those
With the adopt,
peafowls. I
send,
expect
click.
they'll be delivered soon.
It's
But
got to be an
sadly,
easier way
it
to do
sounds like
that.
our snow leopard is a bit grumpy. Let's head over there and see what's
Right.
wrong with her.
See, now this is over the top of this, and I can't see this. If I could drag that down to the corner, once I'm done with this, I could drag it back up again. Or the same with this, or moving this about. So much simpler. But no. Locate the snow leopard habitat. Snow leopard, sweet.
Just like people, animals can suffer from stress if things aren't quite right. You know, like when you see someone put in the milk before the tea bag.
Yep.
In the case of these snow leopards, they're a bit stressed by their lack of privacy. You can lower their stress levels by swapping out the normal glass barriers for
Now,
one-way
if
glass.
I came over here
It's not a cheap option, but I think they will
and
be
was looking
expensive,
from
don't
this
you?
direction,
This will give the snow leopards somewhere to go
I
when they
wouldn't
want to
know
get
that
away
I've got
from
to
the
select
prying eyes
that
of the
piece
guests.
of wall. Because yesterday when I did it, I was clicking here, and then clicking there, and wondering why it wasn't changing. Because this was out of view. So it'd be nice if Nancy was like, click the piece of wall near the snow leopard's cave, bed, whatever, shelter. If she did say it, which I don't think she did.
Just like people, animals can suffer from stress if things aren't quite right. You know, like when you see someone put in the milk before the tea bag. In the case of these snow leopards, they're a bit stressed by their lack of privacy. You can lower their stress levels by swapping out the normal glass barriers for one-way glass. It's not a cheap option, but I think they're worth the expense, don't you? This will give the snow leopards somewhere to go when they want to get away from the prying eyes of the guests.
Yeah, she doesn't say go to the snow
Of
leopard's
course, when an animal
shelter.
isn't in its natural biome, it's probably going
So
to be
if she
too
does,
hot or
that
too
would be
cold.
much better.
Unsurprisingly for the snow leopards, it's too hot, even with the terrible British weather. You should help cool it down by adding some coolers to their habitat. But let's start by opening up the temperature heat map and having a look-see at the temperature in the leopard's habitat.
Okay. Temperature.
As you can see, we already have one cooler in there. Let's pop some more down and get as much of the habitat as chilly as we can.
Okay.
Luckily for us, this habitat already has power, but you'll need to make sure of that in the future. Just so you know,
one
if
of the
any
issues
part of
I
a
had
habitat
yesterday
is
as well,
powered, then the
I
whole
clicked
habitat will be powered.
I wondered why it wasn't changing the
You
thing.
can find heat maps for all sorts of helpful
She
things,
eventually
so
tells
sure to
you
explore them and make good use of them.
That it takes a while for them to go cold
It'll take a
in that
little while
area.
for the temperature
There
to
you go.
adjust once you've added coolers or heaters.
But she should say
now
that
we've got the
straight
coolers
away,
in, we
so
can
that I'm
address
not
the
left
leopards' terrain
confused.
welfare. You see, what the leopards really want in here is snow and rock, so let's make that happen.
Anyway, let's put some wool. Oops. Let's put some snow. Why has this popped up? It's in my way. I can't move it over here. I can't move that over there. It's just in my way. I need to go back to the snow leopard, which I don't know, she should have told me to click on the snow leopard first. Can't move that out of the way. Terrain. Alright. Again, don't get me wrong, game looks lovely. Frontier have done a stunning job.
All of that should give you a pretty good understanding of how to make
Animation's
animals
perfect.
happy. So I'd like you to go and check on all the other animals in the
Perfect.
zoo and fix up any
Gameplay
issues
and
with their
tutorial.
habitats. That'll increase the average welfare of the animals across the whole zoo. And that average welfare is a very important
I
statistic.
feel like I'm forever closing
Now,
menus.
to quickly see how all your animals are doing in the zoo, you should go into zoo management and then into the animals section.
Right. She says zoo management. This didn't pop up yesterday when I was playing. But this tab down here should say zoo management, not just zoo. Because new players, without this constant notification thing that wasn't there yesterday, I wouldn't know what I was doing if I
As you
was a
can
new
see,
player.
this list shows you the animals' overall welfare. So,
Cool.
if something's amiss, then you can quickly pop over to them using the locate button. Right, I'm off for a cuppa while you make sure all the animals are well looked after.
Cool, so she's buggered off. And I'm gonna do something, like, I'll speed up time. So, I think yesterday it was the lemurs that was having trouble. And she says to click that I can click on them and locate. But there's no button that says locate. The only way I would see it is if an animal's highlighted, then I might notice this little arrow, which would then take me to them. And even though it's taken me to them, I can't see the animal because this is in the way, this big window with all the animals on it. But I might want to keep that open. So I'll close it, which means the animal I selected has probably moved since I located it. It's hella frustrating. So one of the problems I had yesterday is the lemur enclosure. It was dirty, and I'm left wondering what the hell to do because I've not been taught how. Well, she's buggered off, and I've not been taught to hire people to clean the area. There was also a problem with the lemurs wanting more food, so I placed a food bowl, but I've not been taught what bowl or what food items the right sort of item to use. So if I check here, habitat, cleanliness. So I would assume someone's gonna come in and clean it, but no one seems to be about. Zoo, staff, caretaker. Can't place him inside an enclosure. See if he goes inside the enclosure. Can I click and call keeper? Hopefully the keeper will clean thing. Enrichment. So food enrichment is 0. Habitat. Food and water. Right, so another thing from yesterday, these two wooden food things, they were not on the menu. I clicked on the food tray thinking that might work, but I called a carer in and they wouldn't fill the thing. Again, I've not been taught which one's the right one to use, and that's the point where I gave up and quit. I had a few issues today as well with different things. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that need cleaning. Why is this in its box? It was nowhere near this, and it's in an enclosure, so why doesn't it come out of the box if it's in the enclosure? That's a little bit silly. But yeah, for now, I think I'm done. There was stuff earlier that was being weird and buggy, like I remember I was clicking on the zoo panel and I had staff pop up and this bar here, but none of this appeared. That was in franchise mode though, but I don't know. I think the tutorial is really sloppy and it kind of leaves you looking at through menus and trying to find things for yourself. And I don't know. But yeah, for now, I'm gonna quit the game because I've had enough. And I'm hoping this is all things that Frontier will fix before the release in November. So, thanks for watching, and bye.